The sun was setting on the forest of Vernine. Long shadows stretched across the tall green trees. Birds flew low, and strange glowing insects danced in the air. Tom walked through the trees, holding his hunting spear. His clothes were rough, made from local fabric. His boots were dirty from walking all day. Tom was not a soldier. He was not a great explorer. He was just a simple man living in a small Earth colony far away from home. He lived alone in a wooden cabin at the edge of the forest. He liked the quiet. He liked being away from the noise of cities. Every day, he hunted and gathered food. Every night, he looked at the stars and wondered if someone was out there, watching back. That evening, as Tom was walking back to his cabin, he heard a loud sound in the sky. It was not thunder. It was something different. He looked up and saw a bright light moving fast across the sky. It was burning and smoking. The light crashed into the forest with a loud boom. Birds flew away. The ground shook. Tom ran toward the crash. His heart was beating fast. He had never seen anything like this. As he got closer, he saw trees bent and broken. Smoke filled the air. The smell of fire and metal was strong. Then he saw it. A small silver ship was lying sideways in a clearing. Its body was cracked and black from heat. Sparks flew from broken wires. Part of it was still burning. Tom stepped carefully, holding his spear in front of him. He didn't know if someone or something was inside. He moved to the side of the ship and looked through a broken window. Inside, he saw a figure. It was small and curled up, not moving. Tom broke open the door and climbed inside. He was shocked. It was not human. It was a girl, young and slim, with glowing silver hair and light blue skin. Her face was soft and gentle. A small cut ran down her forehead, and she was bleeding. She wore a torn suit with strange symbols on it. Her eyes were closed. She was breathing, but weakly. Tom forgot his fear. He carefully lifted her into his arms. She was light, like a feather. He stepped out of the ship and carried her through the forest. The smoke from the crash still rose behind him, but he didn't stop. He reached his cabin just as night fell. He laid the girl on his bed and covered her with a blanket. He lit a fire and warmed water. He cleaned her wound with soft cloth. She moved slightly, but didn't wake up. Tom spoke softly, though he knew she could not understand. "You're safe now. I'll take care of you for the next few hours." Tom worked hard to make her comfortable. He gave her sips of water. He changed the cloth on her head. He sat beside her and watched her breathe. Outside, the forest was dark and quiet, but inside the cabin, a strange feeling filled the air. A human and an alien under the same roof, one helping the other. Two worlds meeting in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of the night, the girl opened her eyes. She looked around slowly. Her gaze stopped on Tom. Her silver eyes were wide with fear. She tried to sit up, but Tom raised his hand gently. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe." The girl didn't understand the words, but she looked into Tom's eyes. Something in his face calmed her. She lay back down, weak and tired. Her lips moved, and she whispered something in a strange language. Tom didn't understand, but the sound was soft and sweet. He pointed to himself and said, "Tom." Then he pointed to her. She looked confused. He tried again. "I'm Tom. You?" She blinked slowly. Then she looked down and touched the star-shaped mark on her forehead. She said one word. It sounded like Mira. Tom smiled. "Mira. Okay, Mira." She repeated softly, "Tom." Tom gave her water again and helped her rest. She fell asleep soon after, her breathing slow and steady. Tom sat in the corner of the room, watching the fire. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know where she came from. But one thing was clear. She needed help, and he was the only one here to give it. The next morning, Tom woke up early. Mira was still sleeping. He stepped outside and looked toward the sky. There were no ships, no search parties, no one looking for her. Tom felt a strange mix of fear and duty. This was not just a girl. She was from another world, maybe from another galaxy. If someone had shot her ship down, they might be coming to finish the job. and if others found out he was hiding an alien, they might take her away. But Tom didn't care. He went back inside, took some supplies, and made a decision. Until Mira could speak, until she was strong enough to stand, until she told him what happened, he would protect her, even if no one else would. The morning sun rose over the trees of Vernine, filling the sky with soft orange light. The birds sang their strange songs, and the wind blew gently across the forest. Inside the small wooden cabin, Tom sat by Mira's side. His eyes were tired, but he stayed alert. Mira was still resting. Her face was calm now, and the color in her skin looked better than before. The bleeding had stopped. Her breathing was slow but strong. Tom stood up, stretched his arms, and stepped outside. He walked to the river nearby and filled a jug with clean water. He also picked some forest berries and a few healing herbs he had learned about from the older settlers. Back inside, he boiled the herbs in hot water. The smell filled the cabin. Mira moved slightly. Her eyes opened halfway. She looked around, confused, and then her gaze settled on Tom again. Tom knelt beside her and smiled. "Good morning," he said softly. Mira didn't answer. She blinked, slowly, trying to understand where she was. Her hand touched her bandaged forehead. Then she looked at the cup Tom held out to her. It was warm and smelled fresh. She took it with both hands and drank slowly. Tom watched her carefully. She was still weak, but her eyes were clearer today. He pointed at her and said, "Mira." She looked at him, then gave a small nod. Tom pointed at himself and said again, "Tom." Mira gave a very faint smile. "Tom," she repeated in a soft voice. The sound of her voice made something move in Tom's heart. It was kind, calm, and full of mystery. Over the next few days, Tom helped Mira recover. He cooked simple food and gave her clean water. He changed her bandages and washed the burns on her arms. Sometimes she flinched, but she never pushed him away. She began to sit up on her own. Then, slowly, she stood with help and walked a few steps. Tom made her a walking stick from a strong tree branch. She used it carefully, holding it with both hands. They still couldn't speak much, but they found ways to talk. Tom used his hands to show actions. He pointed at things, made sounds, and smiled often. Mira watched and copied. She learned fast. She drew pictures in the dirt outside. Her ship, a planet with rings, a triangle with a crown over it. Tom understood little, but one thing was clear. Mira came from far away, maybe from another galaxy, and the symbol with the crown meant she was someone important. Each night, Tom and Mira sat by the fire. The stars above them were bright and full of wonder. Mira would look up and whisper strange words. Then she would hold the silver ring she wore around her neck. It was small, shaped like a leaf, and had a blue stone in the center. Tom pointed at it one night and asked, "Family?" Mira looked down at the ring, then nodded slowly. "Home," she said softly. Tom felt a heaviness in his chest. She missed her home. She was lost, alone, and far from everyone she loved. He wanted to say something kind, but words were not enough. So he reached out and gently touched her hand. Mira looked at him, surprised at first, then smiled again. They were not from the same world, not the same people, but in that moment, they understood each other. The next morning, Tom went into the forest to hunt. He told Mira to stay inside and rest. He left her with some food, water, and a stick to defend herself, just in case. The forest was quiet. Tom moved slowly, listening to the sounds of birds and animals. He found a small creature near the stream and caught it for dinner. On his way back, he noticed something strange in the dirt. Footprints. They were not his, and not Mira's. These were heavy, deep, and large. He followed them for a few steps. Then he saw it, a metal shard stuck in a tree. It was part of a weapon. Not human. Tom froze. Someone else was here. He rushed back to the cabin, holding the meat in one hand and his spear in the other. When he reached home, Mira was still inside, safe, but when she saw Tom's face, she knew something was wrong. Tom showed her the metal shard. Mira's face went pale. She took it and looked at the mark on it, a dark black triangle with a red slash through it. She dropped the piece and spoke fast in her own language. Her hands moved quickly as she pointed at the trees, the sky, and then at her own chest. Then she made a slicing motion across her neck. Tom didn't understand all of it, but he understood one thing. Someone was hunting her, and they were close. He helped her pack a small bag, food, water, and the herbs she needed. He took his own tools and made sure the fire was out. They couldn't stay in the cabin anymore. It was too dangerous. That night, they left the cabin behind and went deeper into the forest. Tom led the way. Watching every step, Mira walked beside him, quiet and alert. They found an old cave near the cliffs and made camp there. It was cold and damp, but safe. Tom started a small fire and gave Mira his jacket. She wrapped it around her and sat near the flames. Tom sat beside her, tired but alert. His thoughts raced. Who were these people following her? Why did they want her? And how long could he keep her safe? Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. It surprised him, but he didn't move away. Instead, he looked at the fire and made a silent promise. He would protect her. No matter what. The sky was gray, and cold wind moved through the trees. Tom stood near the cave's entrance, sharpening his spear with a stone. Mira sat behind him, fixing the small message device from her broken ship. The blue light on it blinked slowly. She looked hopeful. It meant the signal was still active. It meant someone, somewhere, might be coming. Tom felt a little nervous. He didn't know who would arrive first, Mira's people or her enemies. That same morning, while checking traps near the river, Tom saw something that made his heart stop. On the wet ground, there were boot prints, fresh ones, heavy, wide, more than one person. They were close. He ran back to the cave and told Mira. Her face turned serious. She picked up her walking stick, which she now used more like a weapon. She didn't speak much, but her eyes said everything. It was time to go. They packed quickly, herbs, food, water, the message device, and the silver ring Mira had given to Tom. They covered their tracks with branches and mud, then left the cave behind. Tom led the way through the forest. He knew hidden paths, ones only animals used. Mira followed closely, moving fast and quiet. They crossed rivers, climbed rocks, and passed through thick grass taller than both of them. As night came, they stopped near a large waterfall. The sound was loud and strong. Tom knew a hidden cave behind the falling water. They had to pass through the water wall to reach it, but just as they stepped closer, a red light flashed in the sky. It came from the forest behind them. Tom grabbed Mira's hand. Run. A blast hit the trees nearby. Fire spread quickly. The enemy had arrived. They were using scanners, maybe weapons from Mira's world. The forest was burning. Tom and Mira rushed through the falling water and into the small cave. They were soaked and cold, but safe for the moment. Outside, red light lit the forest. They could hear shouting in a strange language. Mira's body shook as she pressed her back to the wet stone wall. Her breathing was fast. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. Stay calm. We'll find a way out. Mira looked up at him. Then, with trembling fingers, she reached into her bag and pulled out a tiny black cube. She pressed the sides, and a glowing map appeared in the air. It showed the area, rivers, mountains, and a small hill with a strange symbol on it. She pointed to the hill. Tom leaned in. What's there? She drew a circle around it, then made a lifting motion with her hands. A signal tower. Tom guessed. Mira nodded. It was an old outpost built long ago by her people, a place that could send stronger signals into space. If they could reach it, they might call for help before it was too late. The map showed the tower was 3 hills away, near the edge of the forest. They had to move fast. By morning, the fire had stopped, but smoke filled the air. The enemy was still searching. Tom and Mira moved low through the burned trees, covering their faces with wet cloth. Every now and then, they heard voices and saw red lights in the distance. They stayed low, sometimes crawling. At one point, a small flying drone passed overhead. Mira grabbed Tom and pulled him behind a rock. The drone scanned the area, but missed them. After hours of walking, they reached a rocky hill. On top was a broken building made of dark metal. Strange symbols covered the walls. It was half buried in dirt and moss. But the shape of a tower still stood. Mira smiled faintly. "We're close." They climbed the rocks and reached the top. Inside, they found a control panel covered in dust. Mira brushed it off and pressed her hand against it. A soft hum filled the air. Lights flickered on. Tom stood near the door with his spear, watching the forest below. He saw shadows moving. "We don't have much time," he said. Mira worked fast. She plugged the message device into the tower's control panel. It connected with a small click. The blue light turned green. A soft tone echoed from the panel. She looked at Tom and nodded. The message was sent again, stronger this time. Maybe even the Queen herself could hear it now. But just then, a loud blast hit the side of the tower. Metal shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're here," Tom shouted. Mira stood up and handed him a small glowing crystal. "Keep it safe," she said. Tom took it without question. He could feel energy inside it. It was warm and pulsing. Mira picked up a short alien blade from the wall. She handed Tom another stick that sparked on one end, a kind of energy rod. They stood side by side as footsteps climbed the rocks below. The first soldier came into view, tall, in dark armor. With the red triangle symbol on his chest, he held a weapon shaped like a long hook. Tom didn't wait. He swung his rod, and it sparked against the enemy's armor. The soldier fell back. More came, shouting. Mira fought with smooth moves, her blade flashing like silver fire. She moved fast, ducking and turning. Tom stayed close, blocking hits and pushing enemies back. Together, they fought like they had trained for months. Then, a loud sound came from above. A ship. Not the enemies. A large silver ship broke through the clouds. Its symbol, the crown of Phalos, was clear on its side. Mira looked up, eyes wide. "It's them," she whispered. Ropes dropped from the ship, and white-armored guards slid down. They fought the enemies quickly and pushed them back. One of the guards ran to Mira. "Princess," he shouted in her language. She nodded, but turned to Tom. Tom stood still, unsure. The guard looked at Tom with confusion. "Who is this?" Mira didn't answer. She stepped beside Tom and held his hand. "Save me," she said softly. The guard looked surprised, but he didn't argue. "Come," he said. "The Queen is waiting." The days passed slowly in the cave. The forest outside stayed quiet, but Tom remained alert. He placed traps around the area and made a small path from stones, so Mira would not slip when walking. Every night they ate near the fire and rested on dry leaves covered by old blankets Tom had carried from the cabin. Mira was healing fast now. Her strength returned day by day. She could walk without the stick, and her wounds were almost gone. Her eyes looked brighter, and her voice was stronger. But there was still a shadow in her heart. Tom could feel it. She had not told him everything. Something was hiding behind her kind smile. He didn't push her. He waited for the moment when she was ready. One evening, after they finished eating, Mira looked at Tom with serious eyes. She held the silver ring that hung from her neck and pointed at the stars. Then she took a stick and drew shapes on the ground. First, she drew a planet with rings around it. She drew many small stars. Then she drew a tall building with flags. On top of it, she drew the same crown-shaped mark that Tom had seen on her clothes before. Tom watched closely. He nodded and pointed at the crown. "Mira," he asked. She nodded. Then she drew another symbol, the black triangle with a red slash, like the one on the weapon shard Tom had found. She frowned and crossed it out with angry strokes. Then she drew a ship flying through space. The ship had fire behind it, and a small figure was inside. She pointed to herself. Tom leaned back. He was beginning to understand. Mira came from a royal family. The crown meant she was not just anyone. She was a princess or someone very high in her world. The ship crash was not an accident. Someone from her world, maybe from her own people, had tried to attack her. The triangle mark was from those enemies. Tom felt a chill. She had escaped. Something big, something dangerous, and now, she was hiding here on Vernine with no one but him to protect her. Mira looked into his eyes. She said a word he hadn't heard before. Thalos. She touched her chest, then repeated the word. Thalos. Tom repeated it slowly. Thalos, you're home. Mira nodded. She picked up the stick and drew a circle around the crown. Then she pointed to it again. Queen, she said, and then touched her own heart. Daughter? Tom's eyes widened. She was not just a royal. She was the daughter of a queen, a true alien princess. He stared at her in silence. He felt both amazed and afraid. Mira smiled sadly. She drew a crack across the crown. Then she drew small soldiers holding weapons. One of them wore the triangle mark. She shook her head slowly. War? Tom asked. Mira nodded. Tom now understood. Mira's planet, Thalos, was in trouble. Her people were fighting. Some of them had betrayed her family. They wanted to remove the queen. Maybe they wanted to take power for themselves. Mira had escaped the attack, but they were still looking for her. Tom felt his hands tighten. He had thought Mira was just lost, just someone hurt in a crash. But now he saw the truth. She was the last hope of her people, and her enemies were near. He stood up and walked to the mouth of the cave. He looked at the trees, listening to the wind. Mira walked up beside him. She stood quiet for a moment, then said, You've saved me. Tom turned to her. Anyone would have. He said. Mira shook her head. No, not all. Tom looked into her eyes. He saw fear, hope, and something else, something softer, something warm. That night, they didn't speak much, but they sat close. Beside the fire, Mira slowly leaned her head on Tom's shoulder again. He didn't move. He just closed his eyes. The next morning, Tom and Mira started training. Tom knew that if enemies were coming, she needed to be ready. He gave her a wooden stick and taught her how to defend herself. Mira was fast. She learned quickly, copying every move with grace. She showed Tom her own moves too, hand signs and steps used by fighters on her planet. Her style was smooth and quiet, like a dance. Together, they trained until the sun went down. Sweat covered their faces, but they both smiled. That evening, while Tom gathered wood, Mira found a broken part from her ship that Tom had kept near the cave. It was small and round, with a glowing center. She tapped it carefully and whispered something in her language. The device made a soft sound. A tiny blue light blinked on. Mira smiled. She worked with it for a long time, fingers moving fast. When Tom returned, he saw her sitting with the glowing piece. What is that? He asked. Mira pointed at the sky. Message, she said. She was trying to call her people. Maybe her mother. Maybe someone loyal who could help. Tom nodded. He wanted her to succeed. But deep down, he also felt something strange, a soft pain in his heart. If someone answered the call, Mira would leave. She would go back to her world, to her palace, to her war, and Tom would return to his quiet life alone. He didn't say anything. He just smiled and said, Good. That night, as they watched the stars, Mira looked at Tom. You, brave, she said. Tom smiled a little. You too. Then she touched the ring on her necklace and took it off. She held it out to him. Tom looked surprised. For me? Mira nodded. She placed the ring in his hand. Promise, she said. Tom looked at the small silver ring. He didn't fully understand, but he felt its weight. He closed his hand around it and nodded. Promise. Mira smiled and leaned against his shoulder again. Above them, a star moved across the sky, far away. Someone had received the message. Help was coming. But so was danger. The silver ship flew smoothly above the green forest of Vernine. Tom sat beside Mira in the cabin of the ship. The walls were smooth and bright, and strange blue lights glowed softly. Tom watched the stars through the wide window. They looked close, as if he could reach out and touch them. Mira sat quietly, her fingers holding the small silver ring she had given Tom before. The ring shone softly in the light. She looked at Tom and smiled a little. Thank you, she said in English. Her voice was soft but clear. Tom smiled back. You don't have to thank me. I just wanted to help. Mira looked out the window again. Home is far, she said. Tom nodded. But soon, you will see your queen, your family. Mira's eyes filled with hope, but also fear. Enemies still come, she said. Vork, he wants me gone. Tom didn't understand everything, but he knew Vork was a danger. Someone powerful who had hurt Mira's family and now hunted her. The ship moved fast, leaving Vernine behind. The stars shone brighter as they traveled to Mira's home planet, Thalos. When they arrived, the ship landed in a large city that floated above the ground. Buildings were tall and curved like trees. Lights sparkled everywhere. Strange creatures moved calmly. The air smelled fresh and clean. Mira stood at the door of the ship. Guards bowed to her as she stepped out. Tom followed quietly. They walked through the city, heading to the great palace. The palace was huge and shining. It looked like a crystal mountain. At the entrance, Queen Alana waited. She was tall and wore a shining silver dress. Her eyes were strong and kind, but also tired. When Mira saw her mother, she ran forward and hugged her tightly. The queen smiled and held her close. Tom watched, feeling small and unsure. This was a world very different from his own. The queen looked at Tom. You are the human who saved my daughter, she said softly. Tom nodded. I did what I could. Queen Alana studied him carefully. It is not easy to protect a princess. You are brave. Tom felt proud but nervous. Mira took Tom's hand and led him inside. You must learn our ways, she said. We fight a war. In the palace, Tom saw many people, warriors, scholars, and leaders. They spoke in strange languages and wore colorful clothes. Some looked at Tom with surprise, others with doubt. One leader stepped forward. His name was Vork. He was tall, with dark eyes and a cold smile. He wore armor with the red triangle symbol. Vork looked at Mira and then at Tom. This human cannot be trusted, he said. He is a stranger. He does not belong here. Mira's eyes flashed. Tom saved me from your attack. He is my friend. Vork laughed. A friend of a princess or a spy? The queen raised her hand. Enough. She turned to Tom. You must prove yourself. We cannot accept you without trust. Tom swallowed hard. What must I do? The queen looked at Mira. She will guide you. Show him the trials. Mira smiled softly and took Tom's hand again. Come. They walked to a large hall filled with light. In the center was a platform. Symbols and lights moved around it. This is the trial of honor, Mira said. It is how we choose who can stand with us. Tom looked at the trial. It was a test of courage, strength, and heart. He was nervous, but ready. Mira helped him prepare. Remember, it is not just fighting. It is kindness, courage, and loyalty. The trial began. Tom faced many challenges. He had to move through dark mazes, solve puzzles, and fight training robots. Each task was harder than the last. He stumbled, but Mira helped him stand. At one moment, Tom saw a robot attack Mira from behind. Without thinking, he jumped in front of her and took the hit. The trial stopped. The queen's voice filled the room. Tom has shown his heart. He protects others without thought of himself. The room filled with light. Tom passed the trial. The people around him cheered. Mira smiled proudly. That night, Tom and Mira sat on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Stars shone above, and soft music played from below. Mira looked at Tom. You belong here now. Tom took her hand gently. I want to stay with you. Mira smiled and put the silver ring back on his finger. Then you are mine. Tom looked at the ring, feeling its meaning deep in his heart. The war was not over. Vork still waited. But together, Tom and Mira were ready to face whatever came next. The city of Thalos was bright and alive. Lights glowed on the tall buildings and streets. People moved quickly, preparing for what was coming. Tom stood beside Mira on a balcony high above the city. The air was cool, but the tension was strong. We must be ready, Mira said. Vork will attack soon. Tom looked at her. He saw worry in her eyes, but also strength. She was a true leader. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Big ships appeared, flying fast toward the city. They were enemy ships, with the red triangle symbol. The war was beginning. Tom felt his heart beat fast. He was not a soldier, but now he had to fight. Mira took his hand. "We fight together." They ran down the palace stairs to the command room. Soldiers waited, ready to defend the city. Mira's mother, Queen Alana, stood at the center. Calm but firm, the queen spoke. "Our enemies want to take our home. We will not let them. We will fight for peace." The battle began. Tom was given a small fighter ship. It was fast and strong, but hard to control. Mira sat beside him, guiding him through the controls. Tom learned quickly. Above them, enemy ships fired bright beams. The sky was full of light and noise. Ships moved like stars in a dangerous dance. Tom focused. He dodged blasts and fired back. His hands were steady, and his heart was brave. Suddenly, a big enemy ship targeted Tom's fighter. It fired a powerful blast. The ship shook. Alarms sounded. Tom held tight. "Mira, help." Mira pushed buttons and spoke softly into the radio. "Hold on, Tom. I'm sending support." Warships with Phalos symbols came fast. They fought the enemy and saved Tom. The battle was long and fierce. Many ships were lost, but Phalos ships kept fighting. Back on the ground, Mira's soldiers faced enemy troops. The fight was close and hard. Mira joined the warriors, her blade shining in the sun. Tom's fighter was hit again. He crashed near the city walls, shaking but alive. He ran to the battle, finding Mira in the middle of the fight. She was strong and fierce, protecting her people. Suddenly, soldiers surrounded Tom. They had the red triangle symbol. They were Orcs men. Tom fought bravely, but was captured. Mira saw this and her heart broke. She fought harder, cutting through enemies. She reached Tom and broke his chains. Together, they escaped the battle. They ran to a secret tunnel under the city. Breathing hard, Mira said, "We cannot stay. Vork's forces will come for us." Tom nodded. "What now?" Mira looked at him with hope. "We must stop Vork and this war." Tom smiled. "I'm with you." The tunnel led them to an old room filled with machines and lights. Mira connected the message device to a console. She sent a call for help. Suddenly, the room's door opened. Vork stood there, cold and angry. "You cannot stop me," he said. "This city will be mine." Mira stepped forward. "Not while I live." Tom stood beside her, holding the glowing crystal. Vork laughed. "A human and a princess? This is a joke." Tom looked him in the eye. "We are stronger than you think." The fight began. Mira moved like wind, fast and precise. Tom used the crystal's power to defend and attack. They fought with all their strength. In the end, Vork fell, defeated. The war was over. Queen Alana entered the room. She looked at Tom and Mira with pride. "You have saved Thalos," she said. "Together, you bring hope." Mira smiled and held Tom's hand. "We will build peace." Tom looked at the stars outside the window. He knew this was only the beginning, but with Mira, he was ready for anything. The great hall of the palace was filled with light. People from all over Thalos had come to see the celebration. Bright banners hung from the walls. Music played softly, and the air smelled of flowers. Tom stood beside Mira, feeling nervous, but happy. He looked at the faces around him, soldiers, leaders, and citizens. Many were watching him with curiosity. Some whispered. A few looked doubtful. Mira squeezed his hand. "It will be okay," she said softly. Tom smiled and nodded. He remembered the long journey from the forest of Vernine to this moment. He had never imagined this day would come. Queen Alana stood at the front of the hall. Her silver dress shone. In the sunlight, her eyes were kind and proud. She raised her hand for silence. "My people," she began, "today we honor the bravery of a young man from a distant world. Tom saved my daughter's life and stood with us in our darkest hour." The crowd whispered, then grew quiet. "Though he is not of Phalos, his heart is true. Today, we welcome him as one of us." Mira stepped forward, holding a small silver ring, the same ring she had given Tom long ago. She smiled warmly. "Tom," she said, "will you stand with me?" Will you be my partner and help build a future of peace and hope? Tom felt the eyes of everyone on him. His heart beat fast. He looked into Mira's eyes and saw trust and love. I will, he said simply. Mira slipped the silver ring onto Tom's finger. The room filled with light and soft music. The ceremony continued with songs and dances. People celebrated the new bond between human and princess. Later, Tom walked with Mira through the palace gardens. The stars shone above, and the night was calm. I never thought I would belong here, Tom said. Mira smiled. You belong wherever your heart is. They sat beside a small fountain, listening to the water's soft sound. Mira took Tom's hand and said, your courage changed everything. You showed us that kindness and bravery come from the heart, no matter where you come from. Tom looked at the ring on his finger. It was small but full of meaning. Suddenly, a messenger arrived with news. The war was truly over. Vork and his followers had been captured or fled. The queen wanted peace talks to begin with other worlds. Tom and Mira would lead the way together. They planned a future where humans and Thelosians could live in friendship. The days turned to months. Tom learned more about Thalos, its culture, people, and history. He found new friends and allies. Mira stood by his side, teaching and supporting him. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Mira whispered, thank you for choosing me. Tom smiled. No, thank you for choosing me. They knew their journey was just beginning. But with love, trust, and hope, they could face any challenge. Two worlds had come together, a human and an alien princess, and their story was a new beginning. A story of peace, courage, and a bond stronger than stars.